He closed in on her, his face contorted in anger. "What did you just say?" Femi asked, his tone icy. "Please, Femi, let me go. I cannot do this anymore. My life is already a mess. Please, I want my life back." Before she could say anything else, Femi gave her a resounding slap that made her vision blurry. He pounced on her like an angry lion, beating, slapping, punching, and strangling the living daylight out of her, while shouting like a mentally retarded man, "I own you. You are mine. I own your life and I can take it when I choose." A wise man once said, "A good relationship is about two things. First, appreciating the similarities, and second, respecting the differences. Life is not always as it seems from a distance. Never be too quick to jump into conclusions." This story is about two jolly friends named Ada and Muna. These two women have been friends since childhood. They attended the same primary school, secondary school, and then proceeded to attend the same university. They practically went through the stages of life together and shared in each other's joys and pain. The two ladies, when the time came, got married. Ada was beautiful, elegant, and a successful woman who excelled in her career. On the surface, she was happily married to the love of her life, Femi. Everything was going well for them, or so it seemed. Muna, on the other hand, unlike Ada, was a full-time housewife, dedicated to keeping things running smoothly in the home and caring for her 4 children. She was not so happily married to the love of her life, Ebuka. She wanted the perfect man and the perfect home. She wanted a man just like Femi. Let's go back to how it all started. Ada met Femi in her final year at the university at a classmate's wedding, where he happened to be one of the groomsmen. He had just completed his service year and was working remotely as a data analyst. The pair created a rapport and then exchanged phone numbers. In no time, Ada and Femi became lovers. The both of them loved each other deeply. They could not spend a day that passed without seeing or hearing from each other. Femi spoiled Ada. He took her shopping always and bought her random expensive gifts. He made sure his woman lacked nothing. But there was just one problem. Femi was short-tempered, and worse, he could not control it. The first time he lost his temper with Ada was the day he called her several times one weekend, but she was not responding. He called and called, still no response. When Ada saw his calls, she called him back, but he refused to take her calls. And so she decided to go to his house, at least to explain to him what happened. Femi did not even listen to her explanations. He was so angry and beat her mercilessly. Ada could not believe her sweet Femi could do this to her. She cried bitterly. not from the pain or the bruises. Her heart was hurt. She had never been hit by a man before, especially not one that supposedly loved her. She could not go back to the hostel that night because of the bruises, so she remained at Femi's house. She cried the whole night and could not eat anything. Sometime around midnight, Femi came to her. He knelt before her and pleaded for her forgiveness. "I'm sorry, my love," he said. "I was just angry and jealous. I thought that maybe another man took you out or something." Ada looked at him, her eyes red from all the hours of crying. "You thought what, Femi? You did not even give me a chance to explain myself. Look at me. Look what you did to me, Femi. Please, just leave me alone. I'm done with this relationship." "Ah," Femi exclaimed, tears filling his eyes. "I'm sorry, Ada. I swear this will never happen again. I agree, I was wrong, but I just lost it. Look at you. You're very beautiful, and I'm sure many men would constantly hover around you. I always fear they will take you away from me." Ada's eyes softened. Her fire dimmed. "There are men who want me. Yes, that is true. But it is you that I love, and nothing can change that. There is nothing to be jealous about. I had an impromptu 3-hour lecture, and my phone was silent in my bag." Femi came close to where she sat and held her hands. "Please don't leave me. I promise I will never hurt you again. Please." Ada forgave him. The next day, he took her shopping, bought her expensive clothes, shoes, and even a new phone since he smashed her phone the previous day. Once again, she was happy and acted as if nothing happened. Not even Mona, her best friend, knew that something happened. Unfortunately, Femi did not stop hating her. Once in a while, they would have an argument, and it always ended with his slap or him beating her up. But as usual, he would cry and beg for her forgiveness and then take her shopping. One time, after beating her, he flew her to Dubai for a weekend getaway. It got to a point that she started seeing herself as the problem. "This man really loves me. Maybe if I stop getting him angry, he will have no need to hate me," she thought to herself. Her friends envied her and wished they would have a man like Femi. Mona would always tease her and tell her how lucky she was to find a man that loved and spoils her. "Not everyone is as lucky as you are, Ada," she always said. "Look at me, for instance. I don't even have a serious relationship. Talk more of having a man that loves me like Femi loves you." Ada would only laugh and encourage her friend to be patient and keep praying for her man to find her. They only saw what Ada was willing to let them see. 1 year later, Ada finished her studies and, with Femi's connections, got a high-paying job in a renowned company. They got married a few months later, and her journey began. Just like every other woman, Mona wanted to experience what it felt like to truly love and be loved. She was not envious of Ada, but she wanted the kind of love Femi and Ada had. Unconsciously, she expected every man she met to be like Femi. For Muna, Femi was a physical representation of what a real man should be like. She met different men and even started a relationship with some, but none of them were able to meet her expectations. Deciding that love was not meant for her, she decided to take a break and focus on other things. Perhaps one day she would meet her own Femi. After graduating from the university, the ladies were sent to different states in the country for the compulsory 1-year national service. While Ada was sent to Calabar, Muna was sent to Ibadan. Before you are sent to your primary place of assignment, there is usually a period of orientation and training where everyone is brought together from different schools and states to a common ground known as the orientation camp. It was in this orientation camp in Ibadan that Muna met Ebuka. He was an answer to her prayers. Ebuka was not just intelligent, he was handsome, funny, and caring. The both of them, throughout their stay in the orientation camp, spent their days together. And just as Muna prayed for, Ebuka was a kind man, the man who liked to spend on his woman. He showered her with gifts, all in a bid to win her love. She was finally happy. Ebuka was not as wealthy as Femi. He was just fresh out of the university, just like her. But he showed her love and care. He listened to her, and even though he could not cater for all her needs at that time, he did his best to be there for her always. Muna and Ebuka's relationship continued to grow, and their love for each other became stronger with each day that passed. Ebuka loved Muna so much. He never spent a day without talking to her. He was always there for her physically, financially, emotionally, and every other way you could be there for a person. Muna was so excited to share her good news with Ada, just to show off. She flaunted her man to Ada's face, telling Ada how caring and loving Ebuka was, how he doted on her and showered her with gifts. She told Ada these stories plus some extra she made up, not because she wanted her friend to be jealous. Muna did it to let Ada know that she had also found a man just like Femi. After their service year, Ebuka went to work in his father's company. His father owned a fleet of hotels scattered all over the state and the few abroad. He was the first son of his father, so by default, he is to succeed his father when he was no more. Besides, his father believed a man must work hard to make money. Despite the fact that he was rich, he made sure that his children work hard to earn their keep. However, the narrative was different for Muna. Just in the last month of their service year, she discovered she was pregnant. At first, she was devastated because she had dreams to pursue her career as a business consultant. But Ebuka was excited to be a father. "Don't worry, my love," he said. "I know this is hard for you, but I promise to be with you every step of the way. We will go through this together and we will make it. If it's about your career, after the baby is born, You can pursue your career. Do whatever you want. I will always be here to support you every step of the way." His words comforted her, and she decided to keep the baby. Ebuka made sure she lacked nothing. He was earning enough money, so money was never a problem for them. The pregnancy was a difficult one for Muna, but Ebuka's presence made it quite easy to handle. He was devoted and made sure her health was his major priority. Ada saw the way Ebuka treated Muna. She yearned for the kind of love they had. She wished that her relationship with her husband could come close to this. She loved Femi very much, and she could swear he loved her too. Yet, she could not explain why he enjoyed seeing her cry. Even with all his flaws, she still loved him. It was not his fault. He was hot-tempered, and she should know better than to talk when he was talking. At least, he always apologized in a grand style every time, she thought to herself. 6 months after their baby arrived, Ebuka and Muna sealed their union. They decided it was time to begin their family. When their son clocked 1, Muna decided it was time to pursue her dreams. However, fate had its own plan for her. Again, she discovered she was with another child. She was deeply sad, almost depressed. But then, with her man by her side, she carried the pregnancy and this time bore a beautiful baby girl. After their daughter was born, Ebuka suggested that he would place her on a monthly allowance while she stays at home to manage the affairs of the family. A few years down the line, reality began to set in. Muna now had 4 children. Ebuka was no longer as available as he used to be. The random dinner dates, the random gifts, and the everyday sweet talk was diminishing. He no longer spent time with her and the kids as he used to before. They no longer even talked much. Ebuka was always on the road. Today, he's in Lagos. Tomorrow, he's in Abuja. And even when he was home, he still brought work home. Muna complained incessantly, but her complaints fell on deaf ears. To worsen the situation, the kids could not play freely when he was around. He would complain that their noise was distracting him from his work. As a result, once their father was around, the kids kept to their rooms. Muna was not happy with the way things were going. This was not how she envisioned her family. Things were getting out of control. She needed to pour out her mind to someone. Ada was the only person she could lay herself bare to without being mocked or judged. The two women found a day, one afternoon every week to catch up. One day, Muna decided to confide in Ada. She told her best friend what was going on in her marriage. "He no longer spends enough time with us. No family time, no holidays together. He does not even take me out anymore or buy me gifts. We don't talk. It's just like he's a different man," Muna complained, tears filling her eyes. Ada looked at her friend with eyes filled with pity. She wished she could tell someone what she was also going through. But anyone she told her story would blame her. So it was best she kept her woes to herself and bore her cross on her own. Mona needed her right now, so she would put away her own problems and help her friend find a solution to hers. Mona, I understand how you feel. But one thing I need for you to understand is that no marriage is perfect, since we are all flawed. Maybe your husband has changed, or maybe he's having a tough time. I think you should find out what is actually going on with him, especially the business, before you jump into conclusions, Ada said. Mona shook her head stubbornly. It's easy for you to say, Ada. Look at you. Your husband dotes on you, takes you around the world, buys you expensive gifts. He even just got you a new Range Rover Evoque. Does he not have work too? You have a career going on for you. But look at me, Ada. I have become a full-time baby-making machine. Ada smiled to herself, suppressing the pain she felt in her heart. Don't do this to yourself, Mona. You will only end up bitter. If you are patient enough, you can fix your home. You have what a lot of women would die for. A man who provides for and protects his own family. Yes, he is not as available as he used to be. Be gentle with him. Find out why. Don't throw all you have worked so hard to build away. Mind you, keeping a home together is one of the most underrated yet fulfilling jobs ever. And I'll tell you this for free. You have a beautiful home. Don't throw it all away. Mona went home with Ada's words ringing in her head. She decided to speak with Ebuka that night so that she could at least understand what was actually going on. Immediately she reached home, she called Ebuka on the phone, pleading with him to be home early so that they could talk about something important. It took a while to cajole him, but he finally agreed to show up before dinner time. She prepared her husband's favorite food, pounded yam and egusi soup, fed the children and sent them to bed early, had her bath and wore his favorite perfume. She set the table with candles and waited for her husband to arrive. Hours passed. Ebuka did not show up. Mona waited and waited. She called his phone incessantly, but he did not pick up. She became worried, thinking something had happened. She paced the sitting room endlessly. Suddenly, she heard his car pull up into the compound. He was finally home. Peeping from the window, she saw he was fine after all. Her insides started boiling. She was filled with rage, but she tried to suppress it. Ebuka walked into the sitting room, tiredness written all over his face. But Mona could care less. "Where are you coming from?" she asked him quietly. "Look, Mona, I don't have time for this. I've had a long day. I just want to sleep," he replied carelessly. It was as if a bolt had gone loose in her head. Mona flared up in anger. "You don't have time for this? What do you have time for, Ebuka? It is always work, work, work. No time for the family. No time for your own children. When was the last time you even touched me? Answer me, Ebuka, she shouted in anger. At least someone has to work to give you all the good things you are enjoying. I work so hard to put food on the table and give you the good life you want. Maybe you should start appreciating it instead of complaining always, Ebuka retorted in anger. His words were like pouring petrol on top of a burning fire. Muna's anger doubled. What did you just say to me? It was you who decided I stayed home to take care of the home and your children. Now you rub it in my face? You're not the only one who has a job. Look at Femi. He works hard and still finds time to be with his family. He treats his wife with love, takes her around the world, buys her things. But all I get from you is sulking around and acting like we are bothering your life. Her voice went cold. I only wanted us to talk. I took the pain of preparing your favorite meal. You did not show up. I called your phone severally. You did not pick up. I guess we are not worth your time after all. I'm done, Ebuka. Enjoy your freedom. Fine, Ebuka replied, matching her anger. You think I'm not doing enough? It's fine. Go and marry Femi. Muna took her children very early the next morning and walked away from Ebuka without looking back. She had a substantial amount of money saved up in her account, enough to begin a new life. Muna had it all figured out. She would rent an apartment, get a nanny for her children, and get herself a job. She was determined to not just raise her children on her own. She swore to pursue her career and build a life for herself. The next couple of days were not easy for Ebuka. He came home to an empty, silent house. His home that usually smelled of food and soap and Muna was just there. His bedroom was a mess, empty, uninviting. He missed his family terribly. He missed their chatter and their presence. He missed his wife so much. He realized that he had not really been a good father and husband. He had become obsessed with his work, all because he wanted to prove to his father that he could handle the business. And now it had cost him his family. He tried to call Muna severally, but she was not taking his calls. Ada was not helping too, and he had no idea where she was. He could not concentrate at work anymore. His whole life had become a complete wreck. Ada told Muna how Ebuka had been begging to know her whereabouts. She pleaded with Muna to go back home to her husband, but Muna remained adamant. I will do no such thing, Ada. He neglected us. I tried, Ada, I tried. But he made it clear that we are nothing to him. I'm done with that life. I will build a life for myself. Calm down, Muna. Everyone deserves a second chance. Give him a second chance. He feels bad already. Ada, Muna interrupted. You cannot understand how I feel. You have a perfect life and a happy marriage. You cannot understand. Ada laughed. Don't be too quick to conclude. Life is not always as it seems on the surface. I have my issues too, but I have decided to bear it in my own way, on my own, she replied calmly. Muna shook her head vehemently, tears running down her cheeks. Whatever it is you are facing cannot be as bad as mine. I loved Ibuka so much. I gave up my life to make sure our family worked. She burst into tears and cried bitterly. Soft-hearted Ada was moved with pity, both for herself and for her friend. She regretted a lot of things. But one thing she regretted the most was enduring all the wicked things Femi did to her. As she held Muna in her arms, the two women cried together. There and then, Ada made up her mind to leave Femi for good. When Ada reached home that night, Femi was waiting for her in the sitting room. "Where are you coming from?" he asked, his voice as cold as ice. "I'm leaving you, Femi. I cannot do this anymore," Ada replied, her heart beating fast. Femi closed in on her, his face contorted in anger. "What did you just say?" Femi asked, his tone icy. "Please, Femi, let me go. I cannot do this anymore. My life is already a mess. Please, I want my life back." Before she could say anything else, Femi gave her a resounding slap that made her vision blurry. He pounced on her like an angry lion, beating, slapping, punching, and strangling the living daylight out of her, while shouting like a mentally retarded man, "I own you. You are mine. I own your life and I can take it when I choose." He kept on repeating as he kept punching her until she lay motionless on the floor. He got up, dressed, and stormed out of the house, leaving her there. When Ada gathered a little strength, she managed to crawl to the table where she strategically placed her phone. Unknown to Femi, she expected his reaction, so she set her phone to record everything that would transpire between the both of them before she entered the house. She had the evidence she needed to make him pay for everything he had done to her, even though it nearly cost her her life. Still in tears and pain, she called Muna to come to her place immediately. Muna was shocked beyond words to see her friend in such a terrible condition. She could barely recognize Ada. Her face was battered and swollen. Without asking questions, she quickly helped Ada to her feet and rushed her to the hospital. Muna could not understand what was going on. She would need to get an explanation from Ada, but of course, she had to wait till she got better. Thankfully, there was no permanent damage done. Ada only sustained a few broken ribs and a lot of bruises. The doctor, however, assured Muna that her friend would be fine. When Muna went in to see Ada, the two women sat, staring at each other for what seemed like a lifetime. And then Muna spoke up. "What happened to you, Ada? Who did this to you?" Ada's eyes filled with tears. Her throat became tight. She tried to speak, but there was no sound. Muna's eyes opened in surprise. "Did Femi do this?" she queried. Ada burst into tears. She cried uncontrollably. Muna rushed to her side. "Oh my God, Ada, how could he do this to you?" Ada spoke, her voice breaking. I thought so the first time too. But he apologized and bought me so many beautiful things and promised it would never happen again. But it happened again and again. Mona, I have been pregnant 5 times. But I miscarry every time because Femi feels it's okay to pound me whenever he gets angry. I bottled everything in. I made excuses for him in my head. I let everyone believe everything was okay. I did not want anyone to laugh at me or pity me. The gifts and the vacations are his way of apologizing when he hates me. I could not leave because he keeps threatening to kill me if I tried to leave. I was trapped in that marriage. I lived like a prisoner in my own home. He nearly killed me this night. It breaks my heart every time you point out how perfect my marriage was. I envied what you have too. Never compare your marriage with another's. Yours may even be better. Mona was in tears as Ada shared her story. She felt very sad that her best friend had gone through all this kind of pain all alone. She felt worse because she had constantly compared her husband to Femi. Of course, Ebuka had his flaws, but he was nothing like Femi. Her heart broke for Ada. I'm sorry you had to go through all this on your own. You should have said something. What if he had killed you? We may never have even known what truly happened. The two women held each other and cried together. Mona was the first to regain composure. What do you plan to do now? She asked, looking at Ada intently. I'm filing for divorce and the restraining order as soon as I leave here. Femi tried to kill me this night. I recorded everything that happened this night. I have pictures on my phone. I have gathered enough evidence to win this fight. I will make sure he pays for what he has done to me, and make sure he has no opportunity to do this to any other woman. I am tired of living in fear. It's time to fight back. Ada replied. However, Ada continued, I need you to give Ebuka another chance. My marriage from the beginning was a disaster. What Femi and I have is irredeemable. But you and Ebuka can still make things work. Talk to him, listen to him, and make it work. Mona spent the night with Ada in the hospital, but she could hardly sleep that night. The day's events kept playing in her head. You truly cannot judge a book by its cover. She realized that she had made a big mistake. She made up her mind to listen to what Ebuka had to say. They had both wronged each other and unconsciously contributed to their marital issues. Just like Ada said, everyone deserved a second chance. If they tried enough, they could make their marriage work. The next day, Mona went home to her husband. Immediately, Ebuka opened the door and saw his wife. His face lit up. He took her in his arms and they held each other for a long time. Ebuka broke the hug and looked into his wife's eyes. I'm sorry for everything, Muna. These past few days have been hell for me. I've realized how much you and the kids truly mean to me. I became obsessed with trying to prove myself to my father and neglected the most important part of me. Please forgive me, Muna. I swear, henceforth, I'll be a better husband and father. Muna looked at her husband, her heart filling with love for him. I'm sorry too, my love. I'm not without blame in all of this. I want you to know that you are more than enough for us, and I love you just the way you are. Ebuka and Muna started their love story on a fresh page. Once again, love returned to their home. Muna went back to school to pursue a master's degree in business consultancy for the purpose of career advancement. Ada sued Femi for assault with intent to kill. She filed for divorce on the grounds of domestic violence. With the evidence she presented to the court, Femi was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to life in prison without appeal. Ada got 50% of all he was worth, including the house. She was finally free. She had no idea what life had in store for her, but for the time being, she would enjoy her freedom, live for herself, and try to be as happy as possible. Hey lovers, thank you for watching my story. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you learned something from this story, please let me know in the comment section and give this video a big thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so already. I'll have to go now, but I'll see you in my next video. Bye.